Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. This is the first of the 2022 Shopping Center Property Owner and Broker meetings. We've previously convened these on a quarterly basis, so happy to kick these back off as we're transitioning. We have a lot of things to discuss and update you on. So I'm joined today with our unhoused specialist, Brian Malicdem, on the bottom left. And then on the top left, I am joined by Captain Ray Ramos. So we're going to be giving some presentations, both from our unhoused specialist, from Captain Ramos, as well as from myself in the Parklet program that was just recently passed. And with that, oh, I see Matt's joined. Hi, Matt. With that, I will go ahead and let Captain Ramos kick it off.
Thank you, Brittney, and good morning, everyone. Captain Ray Ramos with Morgan Hill PD. What I'd like to first start off with is addressing some issues that have come up when we're talking about using city resources and reporting crimes. Let me get my screen up here, sorry. So when we want to report our non-emergency crimes such as theft, trespassing, reporting nuisances, blight, graffiti, etc., we'd like just to remind everyone to use our non-emergency number of 408-779-2101. For any in-progress crimes, we'd like to again remind whoever is calling in to stay on the phone with dispatch and just give us more than anything a play-by-play if the suspect or suspects, are still in the store, still on the property. Just give us a play-by-play, and that way our incoming units can either start a perimeter or know where to come into the complex from. When reporting misdemeanors not committed in the police presence, we'd have to get a citizen's arrest form signed. So essentially, the property owner, the store manager, or whoever the victim of the crime was or witnessed it can be the arresting party. If the misdemeanor, once again, is not committed in our presence, there's not much the police can do with that. So is there any questions with that? I know that can get a little confusing. Okay, I'll go forward. Any retail or all the retail theft as far as flash mob styles has obviously increased throughout the South Bay. There's been major investigations and arrests with these groups. They have been related to East Bay gangs. And what have we done as a police department? Well, we've increased our police presence, obviously. We've also asked that there's upgrades in security cameras as well as in-store securities. So Brittney, can we go to the next or to the first slide? I'm sorry, there we go. So I'm already talking to those points, so I apologize. And then the thefts and smash and grabs kind of relates back to the flash mobs, but when it comes to the thefts and the stores and their policies, every store has a different policy. So we just ask that you refer to your store policies when trying to apprehend or not. At the end of the day, it's a property crime, regardless of what the amount is being stolen or otherwise. We really don't recommend that you go hands-on. We had an incident at a box store over the weekend where someone was stealing about $40 worth of merchandise. He was apprehended by loss prevention, at which point the subject told the LP that he had a gun, he was going to shoot him. So he just let him go and walked away with $40. I mean, if he did in fact have a gun, $40 obviously is not worth any injuries to the loss prevention or any other store clerk. So on to our next point of installing cameras. For the most part, we do have the majority of our store and shopping centers do have cameras. Obviously, technology advances really fast. So I would say that if you could stay up with it, it's great, because some systems are really obsolete and really grainy when it comes to parking lot security. So if we can advise anything, it'd be to stay up with the technology. I know it's expensive, but the cameras do deter crime. They provide us suspect information, especially when it comes to vehicle burglaries, stolen vehicles, vandalism, and they also provide a sense of safety for the employees as well as the patrons. When installing the cameras, we advise that we have a 360-degree visibility to the cameras to ensure that every part of your complex is covered with cameras, and also that we share the footage with the police department. We have sometimes we have issues obtaining copies or videos or still photos from footage of a crime. So if we just ask the cooperation, that'd be awesome. Looking in the future, we have a system called Axon, and part of that is called Axon Citizen, and that will allow, if there is any crimes committed, that we can provide you a link and then upload the footage into the Axon Citizen. So that's going to take a lot of time from the officers going back and forth, or the store managers, et cetera, providing a thumb drive or a disk with the footage. So that's going to be great. So additionally, when it comes to cameras, we've installed 25 flock safety system cameras throughout our city. And essentially it picks up the motion of the vehicle, essentially getting a picture of the rear of the vehicle to include the plate. And we can, well, let me backtrack a little bit. I'm sorry. Essentially what that system does is recover or report stolen vehicles and wanted vehicles in the stolen vehicle system or wanted vehicle system. So since January 1st of this year to May 15th, we have recovered 153 stolen vehicles to include 153 arrests. In those vehicles, we found an array of items to include catalytic converters, stolen guns used in crimes, et cetera, et cetera. You can just imagine what we find in these vehicles. We've also stand firm that we've also prevented crimes from occurring, because these cars come into our city, they commit crimes and then leave. So when we stop these stolen vehicles and suspects in there and are making arrests, we've also prevented them from coming into the city and victimizing more people. Any questions on Flock or Axon Citizen? And Flock, let me throw another little bit out there. They're $2,500 a year. It's on a lease, a rental, if you will, system. They place the cameras where we would like them. So what we have done is try to cover the ingress egress of the city, as well as mapped out where the majority of our thefts and crime is committing to help deter the crime, as well as help with our investigations. So we have gone to council rather, and asked for another 25 to cover the areas of our city that are not covered without being redundant. So, and those cameras can be purchased by private citizens as well. So we just recently, well, actually not us, the police department, we got access to, but Holiday Lake Estates, the HOA, has recently purchased 2 cameras that we have access to directly. So any vehicles that come in and out of the Holiday Lake Estates area, and they're stolen or there's a crime up there, there's really one way in and one way out of there. So we will definitely get a picture of any of those cars. So if we get a suspect vehicle description, we can go back to the system and research that. We can research it by plate, by make and model, by color. If they said it was a gray car with stickers in the back window, we can enter that into the system and find a gray car with stickers in the window. So we've done it several times and it's become successful for us. We've actually identified suspects in a homicide for one of our local agencies through our flock system. So it's become very successful for us in our investigations. On to
Captain Ramos. Quick
yes.
question. You did mention something about the Axon Citizen. Is that currently launched or are we looking to launch that soon?
We're looking to launch it soon once we go live with our Axon report management system. We've just recently gone to council and they gave us a thumbs up to go forward with it. So we're probably about a year to two out from implementing that.
Thank you.
So that will be a report writing system or report management system, as well as our CAD, which is our dispatch end of it. The system we have is no longer being supported or developed by our current provider. So we have no choice other than to go with someone else. So next point is keeping our lights on. We really believe that lights are a real deterrent. So it also gives us a sense of liveliness and an illusion that people are around. So leaving the lights on and installing motion activated lighting is critical to the safety, again, of the patrons and the employees. Next slide. Okay, maintaining and a check on your property. This is really critical because we want to keep our properties clean. The trees, trim them, undercut them so that the canopy is kind of high, and remove trees and shrubbery that are causing a nuisance. This is important because we've experienced where people, especially around banks, etc., they'll hide behind there. Now we have, as Brian could attest, we'll have the unhoused that are camping out behind these little fortresses, if you will, of trees and shrubbery and bushes. So we ask that you keep your properties free of trash, litter, and all the junk. And there's also muni codes also that assist us in keeping the properties clean. So I haven't seen that as of lately, but we just put that out there. So next point is something that as property owners, we ask that if you can, to post no trespassing or private property signs, as well as a sign somewhere on the entrance and exits that all vehicle codes are enforced. That gives us the police the ability to go in and tow any vehicles without the property owner's approval or consent. Essentially, if any vehicles that are parked there with the registration expired over 6 months, we have the ability to tow them. We also, it's assisted us, and specifically, I think it's Walmart and Target parking lot. They have posted no overnight or no camping signs at the entrance of their complexes. I guess giving us the ability. Lastly, our online report writing system to document any crimes, also to report any concerns such as graffiti, illegal dumping, abandoned vehicles, or any traffic complaints. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions or address any concerns that anyone may have.
All right, any questions?
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you, Captain Ramos. All right, now I'm going to switch it over to our unhoused specialist, Brian Malicdem.
Thank you, Brittney. Good morning, everybody. Brian Malicdem, unhoused specialist with the city of Morgan Hill. While I am new to the city, I'm not new to the work. I've been working with the unhoused people population in both Santa Clara County and Alameda County going on 5 years. So I have a pretty good understanding of how things work in regards to services, specifically, which everybody's interested in is the housing services. You know, people have a misconception of how things are working throughout the county in regards to housing, and I feel like I can bridge that gap as well as get them to whatever other services they may need. A part of the reason the city also brought me on is to take away from PD's, you know, going out to the homeless, because you know, being homeless is not a crime. So yeah, that's a very brief presentation. I have been checking in with the regular encampments and stuff. I do normally on the daily, I'll make routes in downtown to see who may be unhoused and may need the support. I'll provide my information in the chat, and you're more than welcome to give it out to whoever needs. My cell phone, a text will be the best way to get a hold of me, because I can't, like when I'm in the field or when I'm with the clients, I can't always answer my phone, but you know, I can always check a text real quick. I also do know what services are there for people who are at risk of becoming homeless, or you know, like they're living in a shed or like a barn or a garage or something like that. I can work with those people too to get them something more stable. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free. I'll put my info in the chat.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions? Maybe a thanks from Captain Ramos.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
All right, don't see any questions. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. I'm going to talk very briefly about the Parklet program that we just passed for City Council earlier this month. And I'm going to share my screen really quick. All right. Can everyone see that okay? It should be popping up now. Good. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So going to go through this pretty quickly. All right. So just taking a look at kind of where we've been with the outdoor dining. In 2018, we had a Parklet pilot program. So that was created to activate streets, promote walkability, slow traffic in the downtown, increase the vibrancy. During that time, we had 0 restaurants participate in the program, mainly because of the cost of putting up a parklet from the ground up, but also because we didn't have that necessity of outdoor dining. It's a great ad at that time, but it wasn't something that we absolutely had to do. So as we then moved 2 years forward during the COVID pandemic, obviously outdoor dining became an absolute must. And the city was able to put together what they called the alfresco program. And so what that did is it provided orange barricades for our restaurants that wanted to create parklets, but didn't of course, even at that time have the investment to be able to build out this $60,000 and $90,000 parklet situation. So the city went out and said, hey, if you want to do some outdoor dining, that's fantastic. We'll help you out by putting the water barricades there as a safety precaution. So the city did that. They also suspended code enforcement during that time frame, again, just trying to help the businesses survive basically during that time. As we move forward an additional 2 years to where we are today, where the outdoor dining program was presented to City Council earlier this month, as I mentioned. They passed that and have moved forward. That program is now going to become active June 1st. And basically what that is it's taking us from the alfresco, which was an emergency-driven program, into a more longer-term outdoor dining program, which is inclusive of a semi-permanent parklet program and also a grant funding program. Here's some examples of the outdoor dining that we currently have. So the manual is a 45-page manual. It covers parklets as well as sidewalk cafes. So there's some examples here. You can see in the top left, we have a public parklet, which is Maurizio's, a private parklet in the top right, which is Margarita's, Bottom left, we have Sidewalk Cafe, which is Palmerino's. That's one of our newest ones off Main. And then the manual does address mobile food vendors, but basically just clarifies exactly what it is that we're going to be enforcing when enforcement comes back in January.
Brittney, I'm not seeing that on my Zoom.
Oh, you're not seeing the share?
I see the share, but the slides aren't changing.
Oh,
It's just the front page.
oh, darn it. Okay, let me hold on 1 second. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
Outdoor dining example? Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. All right, so let's talk very briefly about what a parklet is. So again, as I mentioned, the manual covers parklets in both the public right of way and on private property. Of course, today we're more concerned with private property. A parklet is an extension of an existing curb into a traditional parking space by an adjacent business for eating, drinking, dining, retail, entertainment. Some examples of what we have on private parklets currently are Beto's, Margaritas, and then the Trail Dust Craft Roots tea that you see in the center of what used to be a parking alley. So activations to date, again, we kind of covered everything that's in the private property parklets. As I mentioned during Alfresco, we suspended a lot of that code enforcement, just helping the businesses survive and just get through COVID and be able to recover. As we move forward with this program, we are going to bring back that code enforcement, as I mentioned earlier, next year in January. So as we look at that, we have several unpermitted activations on private property that we're going to look to clean up, not only for purposes of code enforcement, of course, but also for ADA accessibility, for constructability, and most importantly, for the safety of both the restaurant patrons and the owners. All right, so let's take a look at the timeline. So in January, we were directed by the City Council to create the semi-permanent parklet program and grant funding program. Earlier in May, we addressed it to the City Council. They approved both the outdoor dining program, which was inclusive of the parklet program, and the grant program. Now moving forward, we're going to be conducting some outreach and light code compliance. And then at the end of this year in December, the Alfresco outdoor dining will expire. So any restaurant that is currently operating under Alfresco will either have to transition their outdoor dining, whether it's a parklet or a sidewalk cafe, under the new rules to be compliant, or they'll have to remove their dining, whether that's removing the full parklet back to its original state being a traditional parking space, or removing tables, chairs, and umbrellas from the sidewalk. This is going to help us transition out of Alfresco, as I mentioned, an emergency-driven program, and now into a longer-term program, mainly for the semi-permanent parklet program, which is a 7-year length of time. All right, so let's talk just briefly about the outdoor dining manual. As I mentioned, it's a 45-page manual, and what it does is it condenses the existing programs that we have for outdoor dining under one 42-page manual. It goes over constructability, safety, ADA compliancy. We're just really trying to get everybody back to a standard point. All right, so now let's talk just about private parklet elements. So the location and the size of the parklet is of course determined by the landlord. It's completely at the whim of the landlord to allow a parklet or to allow outdoor dining. For us, it will require a zoning clearance or an administrative use permit. Now, just to clarify, the zoning clearance or the administrative use permit is only required if you're going to build out a parklet, which is what we see here in Margaritas. As you can see, they're extending clearly from the curb out into these, I believe it's 3.5 or 4 parking spaces here. So the zoning clearance is if you're extending out and you do not have an electrical component or a structural component. If you do have electrical or an overhead structure, that's going to kick that into that administrative use permit, because then it's going to mean that staff review time, and we're going to have somebody come out and just make sure, again, our main concerns are, is it accessible and is it safe, and is it up to constructability standards? Traffic safety device requirements will be required, and we'll see that in the next slide. For private parklets, there is no expiration. As I mentioned before, for the public right-of-way, those parklets are subject to a 7-year lifespan. But for the private parklets, again, completely at your whim, whether you want to allow them and how long you'd like to allow them. Because we don't currently have guidelines around private private property outdoor dining, or really outdoor dining as a whole. We are creating an outdoor dining ordinance, which we're actually going to be bringing to Planning Commission on June 14th, and then we'll bring to City Council. We'll wait the 30 days, and then that will be implemented. And basically what that will do is say, all right, if you want to build a parklet, whether you're on private property, whether you're in the public right of way, we're going to circle you back to the manual. Everything that's outlined in the manual, as I mentioned, it's 42 pages. Anything that's outlined in the manual is what you are going to need to follow. So here's the required safety measures. And this was probably the most difficult part of putting the program together, just because safety is our number one priority. And so we wanted to make sure we really got this right. So if your parklet, again, this is only for parklets, if your parklet is located on a 4-lane road or a road with a 25-mile-per-hour speed or greater, you are required to provide concrete K-rail. As you can see here on this pink picture, that's Mohai Social. So K-rail is the only thing that we are allowing for the required safety measure for a parklet on a 4-lane road or more than 25 miles per hour. We are encouraging the beautification of the K-rail, whether you cover it, whether you paint it, whatever you need to do to make it work with your business. If your parklet is located on a 2-lane road and a road with 25-mile-per-hour speed or less, you have the options for required safety measures of a bollard, decorative K-rail, or a bollard set within a planter box, which is what you see on this, I guess it's bottom left side. All right, so looking at outdoor dining permit fees, we have everything listed, but I know we're just focusing on the private parklet, so I'm going to move off to the right-hand side. So if you're a sidewalk cafe on private property, meaning you just have tables, chairs, and or umbrellas on the sidewalk, you have to, not infringing upon the public's access to that sidewalk, we're not requiring any type of permit, period. If you want to go ahead and create a parklet on private property, as I mentioned, we have the zoning clearance, which is your one-time $250 fee. And that's as long as you don't have electrical, as long as you don't have an overhead structure. If you do have electrical and an overhead structure, that $250 gets applied into an administrative use permit for a $1,500 one-time fee. This is a page right out of the manual. Again, it just kind of goes over exactly what we talked about as far as which permitting is needed for which type of outdoor dining. The next page in the manual that follows this one details out the cost for each of these items here. So a business owner can say, I want to conduct private sidewalk cafe, or I want to conduct a private parklet. Here's clearly everything that I need. And on the next page, here's what it's going to cost me. Now, last but not least, let's talk for a minute about the Parklet Grant Program. So in January, as I mentioned, the City Council asked us to come back with not only the semi-permanent Parklet program, but also a Parklet Grant Program. So they did allocate $50,000 into a Parklet Grant Program. What we've decided is that we are going to allocate the funding amount for a maximum of $5,000 per parklet. That can be either a private parklet or a public right-of-way parklet. The use of the funds are going to be to reimburse one or all of the following: traffic safety components, beautification landscaping, and or construction architecture document fees. The program will launch July 1st, and grants will be issued out on a first-come, first-served basis once the parklet is completed. Questions?
How does the parklets affect the parking ratios for restaurants, or does it?
You know, Dixie, we went back and forth with that a number of times, just trying to figure it out. And really what we came down to is there's no one size fits all approach to it. Because if you're looking at, let's say, Candy Park, or you're looking at maybe where Peking Chinese and Mimosas and City Fish are, if they all decide to build out a parklet in front of their space, there's literally no parking left. However, if you look at Target or the Walmart shopping centers, you could have 1 million parklets and still have a ton of parking. So what we decided is it's just going to be on a as submitted review basis. So there's no limitation to the number of parking spaces at this time that you can use for a parklet, but we're not going to allow you to use all of them. I guess.
Okay, well, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure. All right. I don't see any more questions. And I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. If you want additional information on the Morgan Hill Outdoor Dining Program, the semi-permanent parklet program, or the grant funding program, you can go to choosemorganhill.com. On the right-hand side, there's a resources tab, and you can go down. It says Morgan Hill Outdoor Dining. The manual, the previous programs, whether it's alfresco or the parklet program, are on there, as well as the application and some information about the grant funding. Okay, so at this time, I see we have Rog and Dixie on right now. So I kind of want to open it up to both of you to take a few minutes to just kind of give us an update of where you are, what you might need help with, things that you've been seeing or experiencing in the shopping centers that you represent. Dixie, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm actually seeing quite a bit of activity in the centers that we are handling. And surprisingly, even for our larger spaces that we have had available for quite some time. So I'm very hopeful that this continues and that we can get these spaces leased up. You know, with all the noise that's in the market these days, the tragic tragedy that's overseas, the potential recession, the stock market, it's getting, there's a lot of extra noise, but I think that the tenants that really want to expand are willing to take the chance and move forward, which is encouraging. ICSC was pretty positive, and I'm hoping that we fill up the centers that we have in short order. I think that we're all doing just the best that we can in this market, and just continuing to plug away and keep our spaces top of mind is going to really help get these centers filled up. So that's about all I have.
Dixie, if I could ask a question really quick, we were talking to some of the other cities, and some of them are struggling in the sense that they're having retailers that either want to come in with a new lease or do a renewal lease, but they want to do it for a very short period of time because they're just, again, nervous for all of the reasons that you just explained. Are we seeing that, or are the lease terms pretty much staying flat with us?
No, we're seeing some of the mom and pops wanting to do short-term leases and doing pop-ups. But the corporate guys are continuing to want longer term deals because it just makes a lot more sense. It's because of the capital that they have to deploy to open up these new locations. I will say that one of the biggest challenges is, and not necessarily in Morgan Hill, but one of the biggest challenges that we're facing across the board is the time that it takes to get the permits for these new tenants to be able to open. And I know a lot of the cities are understaffed, and I know they're all working just as hard as they can to get these the plans and permits pushed through. But I can tell you that over the last 2 years, it's been so difficult for these tenants to open up, and my heart goes out to them. Some of them, it's been 2 years. I did a deal right 2 days before the big COVID shutdown, and that poor tenant still has not opened up. And that I'm hearing that over and over and over. So the cities that really care about the retailers wanting to open up and helping expedite their permits and plans, that makes such a difference, and really shows the retailers and restaurants that you care and are really trying to help. Instead of just saying, we're business friendly, actually being business friendly makes a huge difference.
All right. Thank you, Dixie. Thank you. All right, Rock, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll add on to what Dixie said. It is so important to to actually process things quickly and not say that you're business friendly, because what happens is that the retailers that are expanding and are expanding quickly, they only have so much staff. And when there's a city that is moving quickly, that's where they put their attention. If you have a city that is not moving quickly, then you don't get their attention. And I think that that is really, really important. I will say that from our standpoint, from an activity standpoint, right now, all we have built on our property is the 7-Eleven. We started construction on some site improvements for the Starbucks that's there. But it's been really tough sledding on our property as it relates to commercial uses. We have a Taco Bell deal that's done. I don't know where they're at as far as submitting for their building permits. And then we just recently closed escrow with the hotel, the operator that Matt knows. And I think that they need to get going on their building permits as well. We have a possibility for the hard corner, a commercial possibility, but we've struck out on numerous times with trying to secure a specialty grocer that is one that the city would like to see. So it's been really tough from a commercial standpoint, especially when you have existing boxes in the area that are vacant. It's really tough sledding. I know that a lot of it's really hard to justify going ground up for these retailers now with the escalating construction costs, and especially when you have existing boxes that are available, it's a lot easier to make those deals pencil. In fact, I know of one grocer that is not necessarily interested just yet in Morgan Hill, but their priority is existing boxes because they can't afford to pay ground up rents that the developers are asking. But that's kind of I think an overview of where we're at right now. We're optimistic that we will hopefully have the commercial pads spoken for in the next 6 months that front Cochrane. But as far as a supermarket or any commercial in the back, that is very, very doubtful.
Thank you for the update, Rug. All right. Anybody else have any parting words of wisdom before we go? Matt, did you want to say anything?
I don't know if they're parting words of wisdom, but we did record today's session so we can share it with others who were not in attendance today. Rog and Dixie do appreciate your time and engaging with us. And Captain Ramos and Brian, always appreciate your time as our City of Morgan Hill teammates working to, focus on public safety and cleanliness and just, making sure that we try to maintain that business friendly approach. Here on the economic development team, Rog and Dixie, we're here to assist and help and work with you. We want to be a liaison to our other teammates throughout the city, whether they're in planning or engineering or permitting or code enforcement. Look to Brittney and I to help bridge some gaps that may occur from time to time and address some of the problems or challenges that you might be having. Both Brittney and I are fairly, within a year. I've been here 9 months. Brittney's been here almost 6 months, and but we have a pretty good sense of how to navigate things internally here now, and we want to be of assistance to each of you. So please don't hesitate to call on us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.